brain theory.
You were taught to be good, be polite, be calm, be selfless. Don't get angry. Don't want too much. Don't make others uncomfortable. But underneath all that, something else has been growing. Something darker. It doesn't care about your image. It doesn't want to be controlled. It watches. It waits. And it remembers every single time you've buried it under a fake smile. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the unconscious part of you that holds everything you reject, deny, and suppress. And it's not a monster. It's not your enemy. It's you. The real you. The full you. The ancient self before the mask. And it's winning. Not by screaming, but by whispering. Not by destroying, but by seducing. It slowly takes over, not through violence, but through your own denial. Jung warned us this would happen, that if we continued pretending to be pure light, the darkness would grow stronger in secret. And today, we see the consequences in addiction, anxiety, emptiness, and the quiet rage simmering beneath modern life. This is your reckoning, because the shadow isn't coming. It's already here, and it knows you better than you know yourself. The mask is cracking. You've spent your whole life building a persona, the version of you that's acceptable to the world. You know what to say to seem kind. You know how to hide your resentment. You've learned which emotions get approval and which ones get punished. So you filtered yourself, polished yourself, reduced yourself to a version that fits. But the mask is starting to slip. You feel it when you lose your temper over something small. You feel it in the quiet dread that follows a compliment. You feel it when you achieve everything you were told to chase and still feel empty. That's the shadow pressing against the cracks. Because every trait you've disowned, the competitiveness, the lust, the rage, the wild hunger for more, hasn't disappeared. It's been growing in exile, watching how you lie to yourself, learning how to move through your blind spots. The truth? The more perfect you try to become, the more power the shadow gains. You can only wear a mask for so long before it fuses to your skin, until you forget what your real face even looks like. But something in you remembers, something ancient, something primal, and it's clawing to be seen. The shadow is always there, and it's smarter than you. You don't outgrow the shadow. You don't heal it. You don't tame it with affirmations and gratitude journals. This isn't about putting it in a cage. That's what created the problem in the first place. You've been told the shadow is your weakness, but that's a lie. It's not your weakness. It's your unclaimed strength. The shadow knows every rule you follow to feel loved. It knows how desperately you want to seem moral, how badly you need to be accepted, how much you fear rejection, and it uses all of it. Have you ever sabotaged something you wanted, pushed someone away right when they got close, procrastinated on something you care about? That wasn't a mistake. That was the shadow reminding you who's really in charge. Because when you ignore the parts of you that feel ashamed, jealous, greedy, or selfish, they don't die. They just become smarter. They become sarcasm, passive aggression, manipulation, overachievement, the need to control everyone around you. And one day, you wake up and realize Your entire life has been shaped not by your light, but by what you were too afraid to look at. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So ask yourself, how much of your life has been directed by shadows you never dared to face? To be whole, you must kill who you pretended to be. If you want to live fully, if you want to feel real peace, not performance, you have to kill something first. Not your body, but your image. The identity you built to survive. The good version of you. The people pleaser. The perfectionist. The spiritual mask. The martyr. The savior. The stoic. The idealist. Whatever costume you put on to be loved, it has to die. Because it's not love you've been receiving. It's approval. And approval is conditional. You don't get to the truth by polishing your surface. You get there by burning it down. Wholeness isn't about being perfect. It's about becoming real. Becoming someone who can hold the paradox of light and dark, who doesn't need to pretend anymore, who can say, "Yes, I feel envy. Yes, I want more than I'm supposed to. Yes, I've hated people I loved. Yes, I've worn a mask for too long. Yes, I've lied to fit in. And still, I'm worthy." The person who can own that darkness, fully, fiercely, without apology, is untouchable, because they are no longer hiding, no longer running, no longer at war with themselves. This is the death Jung spoke of. The symbolic death of the ego, the mask, the persona. And it's the only way to come alive. Idea 4. Culture is a mirror of our shadow. Look around. Everything you suppress personally, culture amplifies publicly. Why do you think society is obsessed with violence, lust, domination, and greed, while pretending to be so civilized? Why do people watch horror, worship billionaires, gossip endlessly, or secretly root for villains in films? Because culture is the projection of our collective shadow. The darker the individual becomes, the more moral society pretends to be. Cancel culture, virtue signaling, outrage addiction, performative kindness. None of it is real. It's theater, the ego playing dress up. And beneath the surface, rage, despair, hunger. We attack what we can't accept in ourselves. We punish others for the very things we repress. That's why modern life feels like a never-ending emotional civil war. Until you own your personal shadow, you will be owned by the collective one. That's the real danger, not just what lives inside you, but how it leaks into everything around you when you refuse to see it. You were taught to fear yourself. Think back to when you were a child, before the layers of social conditioning, before school, before praise, before shame. You cried when you were angry. You screamed when something hurt. You said no when you didn't want something. You didn't hide your hunger, or your jealousy, or your desire to be seen. But that version of you made people uncomfortable. So you were taught to shrink, to behave, to smile when you didn't feel like smiling, to say, "I'm fine," when you were anything but. And slowly, you learned that love was earned through denial, not expression. That to be accepted, you had to amputate parts of yourself. Anger became disrespect. Desire became selfishness. Sadness became weakness. You were never taught to understand your darkness. You were only taught to fear it. But how can you become whole if you've been trained to hate half of who you are? They didn't show you how to integrate your shadow. They told you to lock it away. But suppression doesn't equal transformation. It just breeds self-rejection. And self-rejection turns into self-sabotage, into quiet despair, into a voice in your head that sounds like you, but only wants to keep you small. So you wake up every day playing a role and wondering why you feel so distant from your own soul. But here's the truth. Wholeness doesn't come from avoiding yourself. It comes from reuniting with the parts of you that were never given permission to live. Integration is the only way forward. You can't destroy the shadow. You wouldn't want to. Because inside that darkness lives everything you've ever needed. Your assertiveness, your creative fire, your boundaries, your instincts, your capacity to protect what matters, your refusal to tolerate the intolerable. You've called it too much, selfish, difficult, mean. But those were never your words. They were someone else's fears sewn into your skin. Jung didn't believe in erasing the shadow. He believed in integrating it, becoming conscious of it, owning it, and using it wisely. Not to dominate others, but to stop being dominated by your own illusions. You do this by watching, not judging. When jealousy rises, look at it. When anger erupts, listen to it. When fear tries to control you, speak with it. Ask, what are you here to show me? You'd be surprised. These feelings you think are poisonous, they're really just messengers, ancient signals from a part of you that refuses to be domesticated. And when you stop fighting them, when you sit with them, breathe with them, let them have a voice, something incredible happens. They stop running the show from the shadows. You reclaim the driver's seat. Integration is not glamorous. It's not clean. It's not pretty. It's brutal honesty. It's confronting the worst of yourself and realizing you're still worthy of love. It's owning the part of you that wanted revenge, the part that wanted to cheat, the part that wanted to scream in someone's face, the part that didn't care about doing the right thing. Because that part of you, it doesn't make you evil. It makes you human. The shadow is winning. But that's not the end of the story. The shadow is winning. Not because it hates you. It's winning because you've been pretending it doesn't exist. Because every time you try to be perfect, it grows stronger. Every time you wear the mask, it gets tighter. Every time you say, I'm fine, when you're dying inside, it sharpens its teeth. But the war doesn't end by fighting harder. It ends by surrendering. Not to the shadow's chaos, but to its wisdom. Because this part of you, the repressed, the exiled, the feared, it isn't your downfall. It's your doorway. The way back to something real, something wild, something free. You think you want peace, but you don't get peace by pretending. You get peace by making space for your anger without it becoming cruelty, for your desire without it becoming addiction, for your darkness without it becoming destruction. This is the final paradox Jung pointed to. You become whole, not by chasing light, but by turning around and walking into the dark. And when you do, when you finally face the shadow, you find out it was never there to hurt you. It was there to wake you up. Because you're not here to be good. You're here to be real. So tell me, Are you brave enough to see what's been hiding inside? Are you willing to shatter the mirror and meet the gaze of the stranger within? Because that's where freedom begins. Right there, in the confrontation. Not with the world, but with yourself. Now, if you've made it this far, I want you to prove it. Comment below with the phrase, "I see the shadow, and I'm listening." Let the algorithm know this message found someone ready. Someone finally, painfully, beautifully becoming whole.